breaking every peak. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Protect and provide, we're knights in the fray. Nothing off limits, we got something to say. Life and love, fitness and fight all day. Guys Night Podcast, let's ride the wave. Politics and prayers.
All right, let's get this started. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Guys Night Podcast. As always, Will McEwen here with you, and also my partner, David. How you doing, David?
What's up, everybody?
And tonight we got a special guest right here in Medina, owner of MK Airsoft. Welcome, Gabe Schuster.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited, man. So we went and visited again last night, and I haven't been in that place for a couple of years, but you're doing your thing, dude.
Yeah. It's we're going into our 5th year now, so the end of this year will be year 5, end of 2025.
So, I mean, we're gonna get into how you've expanded and what you've grown and started to do, but how did the idea of I want to build an airsoft park start?
Yeah, so I've been playing for 22 years, which is a lot longer than most people can say. And I started out in my backyard. We played as kids. We always loved it. And even when I was like 14 years old, I'm like, that'd be crazy if I could have a warehouse. I'm like, only rich people can have warehouses, though, like to own a warehouse or something. I'm like, it's crazy. And my very last employment before I obviously started MK, I used to be a manager at Romeo's Pizza. And I loved it there, by the way. Shout out to Romeo's. They still have great pizza. I worked there for 6 years, and I constantly saved. I wasn't actually sure what I was saving for, but I was like, I just want to save money. I want to do something, other than cut pizza. And I saved up, I think it was like roughly $5,000. And my brother ended up saying, hey, like, I'll help you in this endeavor. And we found, it was funny. So it actually kind of starts on a sad note. There's a big building that we went to, and we put a deposit down. We thought that was normal. The guy asked for 3 months of deposit. So it was like $5,000. So it was $15,000.
Holy smokes.
And we signed the lease. We were just super excited. We're like, oh, this guy's going to rent to us. It's going to be amazing. Didn't really know this guy that well. We went in the next day after we signed the lease, after we gave this guy $15,000, and we laser measured the whole building. And he told us it was like 26,000. It was like 14,000. So
wow.
Like 10,000 square feet lower.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the lease agreement was super open-ended as far as the verbiage went. It said if there's any issues in the first 30 days, you get all your money back. So I was like, hey, this is an issue. It's like 8,000 square feet smaller than you told us. And it was crazy because it turned into like a whole thing. He like started avoiding my calls. He wouldn't give me my money back. I had to hire a lawyer. I ended up losing like $800, like having him, write up the paperwork. I think it was like 3 or 4 months. He finally wrote me a check, and I got all my money back. But like when that initial thing happened, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not cut out for business. Because I got taken advantage of like for every single dollar we had. It wasn't like I had 40 grand in the bank. Like I had $5,000. My brother helped me out. He put 10 in, and that was, our joint venture. And then it was just gone. And I was like, maybe I should just go back to cutting pizzas. Like it might not be for me. But anyway, we got the money back, and this guy randomly messaged me on Facebook, and he said, hey, my uncle owns a warehouse. He just bought it. Mike Brock.
Yeah.
Yeah, his nephew. I think his nephew messaged
Hickson?
me. Yeah, Hickson.
Yeah,
Hickson.
yeah.
I guess shout out to him because my whole company started because of him.
Dude, that's crazy. Okay. And I remember when you guys were first opening, he was telling us all the time, he's like, dude, he's going to open this thing. It's going to be fucking awesome. I love Airsoft. I'm like, sweet, dude. Okay.
But yeah, he messaged me on Facebook, and he's like, hey, man, are you still trying to do this Airsoft thing? And I was like, yeah, kind of. I'm like, I wasn't super keen on it anymore because of the, what we went through. I was like, maybe I'll just stick to doing what I know. And we went and looked at the building, and we're like, oh, this building, it was rough because we were the very first tenants. So like a lot of people don't know that we were actually there before anybody else. Like there's a dog wizard, there's an excavating company, there's a plumber, his brother, I think, is or his cousin or somebody runs the plumbing. We were literally the very first people there. We signed a lease. There was still like a massive hole in the roof, like probably 10 feet wide.
Wow.
You could see the sun. And I was like, I could see the potential though. I was like, this place could be amazing. And obviously, he gave us a great deal because of the condition of the building. So, and that was 4 years ago. What's also really fascinating is we started in 2020 in the middle of COVID. So when everybody's like going crazy.
I didn't even realize that.
And it's like businesses are going under left and right. Everything's going down. Mass gatherings are not approved anymore. If you're non-essential, they're like, yeah, you can't have a business. Oh, you're a church? Yeah, 6 people. Like, what?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we started in the middle of COVID, and it was definitely a huge risk because I didn't have a big savings account. I actually did quit my job 2 weeks before we opened. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'll slowly which I probably should have done. Like if I was smart, I should have been like, you know what, let me stay here and I'll just work here during the week and like I'll try to do this thing on the weekends. I was like, no, I'm just gonna quit, put my 2 weeks notice in, and I worked it out. And then it was like opening day, and we did really good. Because I was like,
awesome.
If we didn't make rent, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go DoorDash or something. So,
dude, that's a ton of risk, and it sucks because that happens all over the place. When especially at that point, it's your first time really getting outside and trying to create a business, and then somebody takes advantage on the first swing, dude. And it's like,
which like I didn't really tell a lot of people that story because obviously that's like the whole company almost didn't even happen, and it was like because I was not, I didn't do my due diligence.
Well, you weren't business savvy, but at the same point in time, everybody has to learn somewhere. You hope that there's more good people out there than bad. Mm-hmm. It costs you a little bit, but I'm sure now whenever you're looking at a contract, you're much more business savvy.
Yeah.
And definitely reading into them a little bit further and doing your due diligence and stuff on the buildings, et cetera.
Yeah. Which is funny to touch on that. I actually, and I hate to say this, but you really don't need a realtor. You don't. Like we just bought that whole building in West Virginia, and I looked over the contract. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have a lawyer. I'm like, I can read it, and I read through it, and it made sense, and it was nothing bad. And then we bought it.
Dude, that's awesome. And we're going to hear more about that too. So you get this place up running. I didn't realize you guys started in COVID. For some reason, I thought it was before that. So I'm trying to think 2020, like mandates and stuff are in full effect.
Yeah, it was June.
So did that, here, before you even get into the grand opening.
Yeah.
Leading up to it, obviously you have to build everything in there.
Yeah.
Now I've heard stories, but what was that process like? Because how long was it from the time that you got the contract signed and took over the building and between opening day? How much time did you have?
So, which was, it was really nice of the landlord. So he actually gave me a very specific contract that said basically he would not expect the first month's rent until we were open.
Wow.
Now, I think it was like a given time of like a maximum of 5 months or something, like, because obviously he's not going to just give free rent forever. But that was because we've never dealt with city officials. We didn't deal with fire marshals. We didn't know the process. But yeah, that field was creepy. Like we had no electricity. There was no restrooms, and we're like in there working. The first month we didn't have heat, so we're just like freezing. And half the lights didn't work, so we had like DeWalt like plug-in lights. And, it's 30,000 square feet in the dark, and you're like, "Oh, what was that?" Something behind you. So it actually, I tell people to this day, it was the most difficult and like depressing build because the parking lot was 100% full of semi-trailers and trash. And I'm like, we're never going to get this place open. It's not going to happen. I'm like, this is like, I don't know much about business, but I'm like, we're not hitting any kind of timelines here.
Right.
And we didn't have any money. Like mostly everything we built was out of pallets. We would just go to businesses and they're like in Medina, Brunswick, you go to the industrial areas, they just give you pallets. So we were like, we don't have money. Let's just get these pallets. If you actually look in Medina, still to this day, the tables are actually reclaimed pallet legs, like the legs of the tables in Medina.
Yeah,
they're not 4x4s. They're actually like look-alike 4x4s.
That's hilarious.
That we ripped from pallets. I think there's still an old video if you go and it's us like disassembling actual pallets to like build stuff, and it was horrible though. I'm like, now we can actually afford lumber and like build things the right way, but it was probably a 4-month process, I would say.
4 months, and you did most of the work yourself, right?
Like, oh yeah. Me and my brother.
Was your brother helping you out on it?
Yeah, he's the architect behind everything.
Well, you did a great job. The place looks cool, but I'm sure over the years you've learned quite a bit yourself from what I heard. Like you guys just added on at the Medina. You've got something called the saloon added in there.
Yes, yeah, the saloon is huge. It was like an extra 1,000 square feet, and then it was like all second floor. And it's more in depth as far as like, the building being themed itself. We put some lights in there, and we got some cool paint on it.
Yeah, like the shutter doors type
yeah,
things.
actual like doors that look like they're from a saloon. So different things like that.
And real quick before we go on, please, if you guys are listening, make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe wherever you're listening to us on podcast, on Spotify, YouTube, see us on Instagram, TikTok, etc. And then, Gabe, what are some ways they can find you guys on social media too?
We are MK Airsoft, and then all of our different field names. So like MK Airsoft Medina, MK Airsoft Willard, MK Airsoft Middletown, and then the most recent is MK Airsoft Clarksburg. And then that's Facebook, Instagram. And then we have a YouTube channel, Master Key Airsoft, and we also have a TikTok, which is also MK Airsoft.
Okay, and then let's ask, how did you come up with MK Airsoft?
So yeah, it's actually, a lot of people ask me that too. They're like, where'd the name came from? So it's actually my YouTube channel, which still has never like blown up into anything. I think I have like 1,500 followers, but it was just like, I like to play Airsoft. I like to edit YouTube videos. So I came up with this name, Master Key Airsoft. And then it was actually my buddies on my team. His name is Jordan. And he's like, why don't you just shorten it? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, why don't you just take the M and the K and just call it MK? I'm like, oh, actually, that sounds kind of cool. Because I think the first couple names we had, I don't even remember what they were, but they were too long. And I told him, I said, all these successful businesses out there, I'm like, they're very like one syllable word. I was like, whatever the name, we come up with, it has to be short.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's simple, it's easy, but we were talking about it before the show tonight. I was like, actually, I don't know why he calls it MK, because his name has no M or K in it at all.
No,
so
not even.
All right, so you get Medina up and running, and you guys do pretty well. You said opening day, you were like worried, but turned out well. And this is during the heat of COVID. I mean, I guess you got masks on.
Yeah, if you open in June, so because the shutdowns happened St. Patty's, so
just about
middle of March timeframe. So
it was like literally like 2 or 3 months right into COVID. It was just it was a weird time, but thankfully, like we're back and kind of tucked away, and it was like we just kind of stayed open. Because we were supposed to close. Like, I'm not gonna lie, they were like, hey, you're not supposed to be open, and I'm like, we can't afford to close. So we just stayed open. We never got fined or anything, but obviously, we're here now. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I would have done the same thing. In fact, I did do the same thing. I didn't close our dealerships. Like, we kept running them as operational. And of course, some people freaked out. They walk into the dealership. Why are you guys open? Why are you here? I don't know.
I mean,
go back home.
Car dealerships were essential. I mean,
not initially though.
Yeah,
not initially.
Now, were people actually like playing with like face coverings on? I mean, you technically have a face covering in there anyway, but like, please tell me they didn't have the face covering and then an N95 over the top of that.
I think, maybe 1 out of every 50 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do whatever you want. But people would call them like, hey, do you guys require masks? I'm like, well, yeah, we require airsoft masks so you don't get shot. I'm like, do we require COVID masks? No. And that was like during COVID. And I was like, I'm not going to. So, it's airsoft. You're not really huddling together.
Right.
Everybody has tables. You're kind of spread out. And then you're on the field. So you're 10, 20 feet away from people when you're engaging them, 100 feet away, whatever. So we were never concerned about it as like a big issue. We were like, it's fine.
Well, like you said, where you guys were located at, it's not like everybody was coming down that area. And I think you have a certain clientele too. I don't think you had 75-year-old grandpa coming in there to play Airsoft at that time. But so, Airsoft field opens up, and to my knowledge, it was the first one anywhere around here. I'm sure there's other ones out. Paintball is obviously a big thing, but Airsoft, it's year round. It's a little bit less messy. It's a little bit more expensive or a little bit less expensive, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. But, it's like real life Call of Duty in there.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. We got a couple vehicles. We have a bus, like an old World War II ambulance, just random vehicles I got off Facebook. And I just drug them in there, and I was like, this looks cool. So we integrated them into our field.
And a lot of the games that you guys play, for those that are listening that play Call of Duty or anything like that, you guys have a lot of the same games kind of built into the thing, whether it's Domination or Headquarters or some stuff like that. What are some other games that you guys do in there, and where did you kind of come up with the idea of doing that in order to keep it interesting? Yeah,
so we have, I think we have over 28 different game modes at Medina. We have Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, Transport the President, Search and Destroy is a huge one people love. And obviously Domination, which my dad built those boxes. Not too many people know that.
Oh, really?
So the actual like light up boxes, what they have the buttons. My dad is the designer behind those.
No kidding.
So I've actually had like probably six to 8 other airsoft fields try to buy them from me, and I told them no because I'm like, it's our proprietary technology. It's like, Why would Apple give this technology to Android like their competitor?
Yeah, I mean, especially while you're trying to like grow and build something here, as you continue to expand, the last thing you want to do is have competitors have the same stuff as you. It's kind of what makes it different, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. No, but people love our game modes, like I said. And I think that's another thing that sets us apart. You know, you go to some of these airsoft fields and they just want to play team deathmatch like 20 times in a row. And I'm like, so it's actually I don't want to say non-spoken. It is a spoken rule to all my fields that my head ref knows we are only allowed to run one game of TDM per day. So if you ever look at our game board, you only see TDM once. It's at the very top. We use it as like a warm-up game. Because I think I don't want to say lazy, but like anybody that wants to run like 8 games, they don't want to go out and actually set up the props. Because each game does require a little bit. Like you have to go put out the bricks for Gold Rush. You have to go reset all the flags for King of the Hill, make sure they're all neutral, things like that.
Yeah, but speaking for myself being there, I think that's what adds to the entertainment value, right? Because you can go stand on one side versus the other side and play team deathmatch and just shoot each other and then respawn and shoot each other again. But you actually try to accomplish the missions. Like I was surprised at how many people that were out there were like, no, like you cover me, I'm gonna grab gold bricks. You know what I mean? And like there's actually strategy that goes into it and play. And it's like for me being a combat veteran, like this is like real. You have the ability to train or like real life in there as far as the way that goes, and it's kind of exciting. And everybody buys into it, whether it's a 10-year-old kid that's in there at the same time. Or the overhyped, over-purchased gear equipment 16-year-old who's got $12,000 worth of gear on his back, on his shoulders, and everything else. Because I mean, there's a lot that they add to gear up for these things.
So I think one of the most fascinating things about airsoft, I tell people this all the time, it's the only sport, because that's really what it's classified as, a sport. It's the only sport where you can have a 12-year-old kid and a 50-year-old dad in the same arena. And occasionally, there's problems, because there's these big drastic age differences. It's like you don't have a dad coming in and playing soccer, with the young kids. It's just not a thing. You'd be like, what is he doing in there? So it definitely creates some challenges. And obviously, we've been in business for 4 years, so. And obviously, we're still alive and kicking, so we're doing something right.
So let's talk about that. You start off with the one field. How long did you have that before you guys decided to add on another field?
It was 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. We kind of looked at the books and we're like, hey, we're doing really good. We were like, should we try to open another one? So we started looking around, and then we found one in Middletown, and it was double the rent that we had. But we were like, it was a great location. It's on a main road, and we liked, funny thing, we liked the sprinklers. So every time, no, I'm serious. Every time we open an airsoft field, like sprinklers is the like death of us, or it's something that makes everything go smoother. But they had the old school sprinkler heads, which are only made out of steel. So like the new ones have the glass and there's mercury inside. So it just, a ricochet hits it, it breaks, and then it goes off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the first 6 months of Medina, we had 2 heads go pop. So we kind of learned which ones they were, and we built walls to certain ways to make sure like it doesn't happen again. But
that could be part of the game, though, right?
Yeah. No.
Until the fire department shows up. I mean,
I mean, that's interesting, though. I guess that's one of those things you pick. It's not just a savvy on looking over a contract. I mean, sprinkler heads. I mean, who would have thought that would be something that would be under consideration? But I mean, they just don't make things like they used to.
No. Yeah. They made them better before. And that's another thing. It's funny. I actually put I made them put it inside my lease agreements for all the places that I rent. It actually says airsoft grenades are permitted. Because I was like, I didn't want them to come back a year later and be like, hey, it's too loud over here. You know, because 2 of them are in shopping centers.
Oh, really?
And there's people on both sides.
Oh,
so I was like, they put it in there. And we've never had any problems with sound. But it was just like, I didn't want the landlord, you never know. People don't know what airsoft is, and then they come back later and like, oh, that's way too loud. You can't have that. I'm like, well, it's in the lease agreement, so.
That's awesome. So you open up the second shop. That one is in Willard, you said?
No. Second one's in Middletown. It's like halfway between Dayton and Cincinnati.
All right. So now you got a little bit of a heads up. You kind of know what to expect opening up a new place. How long does it take you to get this one ready?
That one was actually relatively fast. I want to say it was like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I think two inspections.
And just got a little bit easier to kind of, you knew what you were looking for. You had a vision for it. Were these empty? Was this an empty warehouse, like zero in it?
No. So it was actually an old grocery store.
Okay.
And that one particular was probably the easiest to build because it has low ceilings. I think it's like 14-foot ceilings. So it wasn't quite high enough we could build 2 stories. So everything was 1 floor.
Gotcha.
So like the buildings went up in like 2-3 weeks. It was crazy how fast we built it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then how long after that for the 3rd store?
It was a year.
Okay.
So it was a year after that. Willard was definitely the thorn in my side. So I was like, oh, Willard. It's by like Norwalk, Sandusky. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, oh, it's going to be amazing. This 40,000 square foot building. It's bigger than the other 2 we already rented. And I was like, oh, there's probably nothing to do. It's going to do really well. And then I was like, oh, we'll probably pass inspection, no problem. It took us 7 months to get open.
Holy smokes.
So it's actually the largest like financial. I don't want to say it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was just basically the turn of events. But it was the largest financial downturn that we've ever had. So we had to pay rent for an empty building for 7 months.
Ouch. Yeah, that's tough.
Because of the sprinklers in the city. So the city is so small. The city was really cool. Willard was awesome. They actually wanted us there. Even like the city manager reached out to me. He was like, hey, if I could do anything. And I was like, no, it's the inspector for the county. So because the city is so small, they actually didn't have their own building department. And it was like, if I ever open another city, I'll definitely, which I did look closely at Clarksburg, the last one, to make sure they had their own building department. Once again, you wouldn't think that's something you have to worry about. But the city is so small that they have to use the county's building department. So county inspectors are 3 times stricter than a city inspector.
Right.
Because they don't have any vested interest into that building, into the city. They don't, they get paid by the county. They don't care. But that one was horrible. We had 6 different inspectors, like 7 inspections. It was rough. Like we were done building in probably 4 or 5 months. And then it was another 6 to 7 months before we actually opened. So it was a year of downtime.
Oh, wow. So a year you had that building before anything.
Yeah. It was 1 full year from like when we actually signed the lease, like started paying rent. I think we got like 30 days for free or something. We were like, oh, 30 days. That's plenty, We were like Middletown, we opened in 2 months. We're like, yeah, we can knock it out. We did not anticipate, 400 feet of sprinkler pipe needed replaced, and then the city giving us the county giving us a hard time. So
what are the things that that held you up with the county? Like, I mean, obviously you mentioned the pipe for the sprinkler system. So
yeah, so it was the weirdest thing. So because Airsoft is not like super well known, we submitted, I think it was 6 drawings. And it was signed by an actual architect, like he was certified, and they kept rejecting them. And there's the weirdest thing. Like I said, I'd never try to open in that city again, but they wouldn't say why. And it was almost like it was like the Twilight Zone, because I was like, can I get his phone number? Because I was like, if I can talk to the guy that's looking at my drawings and it's saying no, these are not good enough, because they wouldn't come back with notes. They would just say not sufficient information or something, and they wouldn't give out his phone number or his email. They were, I don't know if it's like a thing they were worried about, like bribery, so you can't be in direct, which I guess kind of makes sense. They don't want not customers, but like clients in direct contact with building officials. But still, I was like, you got to let me talk to this guy, because we're on number 7. So finally, number 7, the guy even gets tired of us because we just keep submitting. We're like, we're just going to keep doing it. Eventually he's going to say yes. Finally, he drives out and sets up an inspection. I'm like, okay, thank God, because he never set an inspection. I was like, if this guy actually shows up to our building, like walks in, he'll be like, oh, this is Airsoft. Okay, cool. It's like a bunch of fake walls that are not going to the ceiling.
Right.
And exactly what happened. He came in and he basically was like, oh, yeah, this is fine. So, and
wow,
all the drawings were basically null and void anyway, because the last drawing that we submitted, he still said wasn't good enough. And then he showed up, and then they issued an occupancy permit.
That's insane, man. So all that time you could have been open, and they held you up because of some semantics.
So yeah, talk about red tape in the city like that. That was the worst one.
And it's funny because it's a rural area. That's like the last thing you're thinking of. And obviously you find out about the county versus the city, but at this man, that's
after
rough.
It was too late, because we're signed agreement. We're in there, and then we're like, yeah, where's the building department? And they're like, oh yeah, it's way over, like in a different city. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, we don't have a building department. Like, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, right. Like, this is going to be harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, now you got one more thing to check in and research on. So you mentioned that one financially hasn't been the best decision, but how has things gone as far as since you've opened now, and how long have you been open over there now?
That one's 1 year. Okay. So it's only been open a year. Still very new. But I don't want to say it's struggling. It's definitely, it's harder than I thought to get people there. So I will say, Willard in general, like if you've ever been there, you live over there, it's you have to drive through 30 minutes of corn to get there. There's just no major highway. And that's been a big hindrance to us because all the other locations do pretty well, and they're all very, within 5-8 minutes of a major highway. So I think that kind of hurts us a little bit. But I have a 5-year lease, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm gonna keep marketing and just keep trying to build it up.
Yeah, and imagine too. Well, I'm trying to think. You said out by Sandusky though, so you got the Toledo market, you got the Sandusky market. It's just a matter of getting them to come figure out where you're at.
Yeah, Toledo. I mean, Toledo's huge, and there's same thing. There's not a lot to do out there. So we kind of was hoping for that. So it definitely still could be a marketing thing.
Sure. How far are you guys from actual Toledo?
About 45. It's like an hour. I think it's an hour.
Oh, so it's still a drive out for. I mean, that's just tough about being in it. But once again, it's a learning experience, and who knows. I would think that there's not much else to do out there that somebody else would, it'd be something that these guys could do and go out there and figure out. But maybe you guys figure out a different way to market it. And,
and I always tell people, I was like, it's the biggest, I would say, I don't want to say it's a mistake because it wasn't anything I even did wrong. It was just the Facebook analytics at the time. But I was like, if I could start all over again, I would be very careful about how I posted because, we lost our ad privileges in the first 6 months of even being an established company. We just
is that for MK overall?
Yeah, because all of them are linked to one platform. It's kind of crazy when people talk about making a fake profile on Facebook. It's actually really difficult because because eventually, like nowadays, they ask for like a driver's license and a phone number,
right?
And then everything's linked together. So when I created the first account, I linked it to my personal account. So all my personal information is linked to my business. And then, 6 months down the road, Facebook was like, oh, you're selling guns, so we have to ban your ad privileges. So Facebook won't even take my money to like promote my business. But obviously I'm not super worried about it because it's like if your company is good enough, your organic reach is going to make it to those people that want to come see you,
Yeah, organic reach definitely helps, but throwing the extra 10, 20, 30 bucks to get that information out there to people that aren't expecting it. I mean, the ability to not do that, and that's another thing with Facebook. We're like that with TikTok. They won't take our money, whether it's $5, $10, $100. They don't care, And it's like, well, especially I feel like it's funny too because it says like, oh, your ban will be lifted in 2035,
2035.
Yeah,
we're coming back.
Wow, 10 years. You don't want to take my money because of like a 30-second video that we posted that I'm pretty sure I either took down or they made me take down. So it's like.
Did you guys even get a warning, or was it like one video and then boom,
you're
done?
I think I got a warning.
Oh, you did get one warning. So.
Yeah, and then the next one is where they took it down. But at the same point in time, like I don't know if you've gotten one of those warnings, but they're like 5 pages long with a bunch of mini print that I'm like, so it doesn't tell you the exact reason you're getting the warning. Mm-hmm. It just says it doesn't follow their guidelines. Well, I didn't read who reads the guidelines? They're 5 pages long, bro. Yeah. Just let me post online. Like there's a lot worse out there than what I was posting.
No, that's crazy.
But because I guess I threw some bucks behind it is what pissed them off and kept them from allowing me to. So, all right, well, let's talk about your newest adventure. And the story behind it. Huge building.
Yeah. Double
the size of your others.
Yes.
And it's in Clarksburg, correct?
Yeah, Clarksburg, West Virginia. It's huge, 72,000 square feet. And what's really interesting about that location
is so big.
Yeah, it's
like
huge.
We walked the 34,000 or whatever at Medina yesterday.
Yeah.
72,000 square feet is enormous.
And it was so funny because I actually had, it's the news. I think I had like 4 interviews in the last 2 weeks with different news articles. And one of the questions, everybody keeps asking me the same question. They're like, "Oh, what made you bring your business to Clarksburg?" And I'm like, "Actually, I had no intention." I was like, I consider myself a deal finder, because even all the rent I have, I talk to my distributors who sell airsoft equipment all over the country, and I tell them what I pay in rent, and they're like, "Dude, that's crazy. Like everybody else that has a similar size building is paying 3 times that." And I'm like, oh, that seems horrible. And they're like, yeah, that's really low. So I think every time I've been able to find a contract, it's just way below the norm of what anybody else would be paying. So it was a great deal, and it was for sale. And I was like, you know what? I had really no money. Honestly, it wasn't even a good time to buy a building. But it's a very specific building. It's a square, which we wanted. It has 4,000 square feet of office space, which is central air and central heat, which is what we needed for a staging area. Because we're like, if the field's not cooled, that's not a big deal. Players can go to the staging area and cool off. And I went and looked at it twice. I drove out there. It's about 3.5 hours from me. And I was like, this building is unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. It has 24-foot ceilings. You know, you could park an entire, you know, armory in there, a bunch of tanks, and you could build houses in there. It's huge. It's unbelievably huge.
That's cool.
And we gave an offer, and it was kind of ridiculous. So I actually watched like YouTube videos about seller finance, and I think there's a different word for it besides seller finance, like
Owner financing, maybe.
sub two. Yeah.
Sub two.
Okay.
So it's like sub 2 contracts and seller finance. Pace Morby. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but I watch his videos because he's a very captivating guy, you know. And I'm just like, I didn't even had any intention of buying anything. But I watch his videos, and he's like, yeah, I don't buy anything with any money down. And I'm like, that's impossible. I'm like, that doesn't happen in the real world. It's not a real thing. You can't buy a $1 million building with no money.
Right.
But I did. You know, I actually bought it with $5,000, and it was just the escrow. It was the escrow money. So not even closing costs. I didn't pay closing costs. I didn't pay inspection fees. It was just $5,000 flat. And that was the good faith money that you have to like put into the account, basically saying, hey, we're putting a real offer in. Here's our good faith money. So the offer was, I wanted the seller to put up $400,000 of his own money. And I was like, there's no chance he's going to say yes. It's just not happening. I'm like, who puts up 400, you know, to sell a building? And he did, though. He agreed to it.
How did that part come about? Because I mean, that's like, okay, I'm willing to pay his asking price, or I'm going to ask for a negotiated asking price, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then I want him to give me $400,000
Yeah.
in order to buy his, like, how did that conversation start?
Also, just to clarify in the record, you don't need a realtor. He needs a realtor. I'm in real estate, by the way. But,
No,
he needs a realtor. But yeah, go ahead and answer.
Yeah. So, it's so funny because when I saw the closing documents, I saw that he paid 7%, which I was like, whoa. Because I remember when I bought my house, it was like 3%. It was still like, when that number hits you, like,
Yeah.
man, my realtor just took 3%, which, you know, I get it. They do a lot, but still you're like, that's a huge amount of money. You know, it was like $10,000 for my house. For him, I think, you know, it was a huge number that he paid.
Yeah, no kidding.
But anyway, I think because it was seller finance, I think that's what kind of also helped not need a realtor, I would say. Because the bank was still involved. So I think like sub 2, so far as called like land contracts, whatever. Land contracts are basically cutting the bank out. The bank's 100% not involved. So the bank was involved, and then he was involved with his money. So he took $200,000, gave that to the bank as their 20% down. So actually, well, let me back up. So the caveat was the building was actually listed for $900,000.
Okay.
So, and they only had one counter offer, and they said, "Hey, we'll give you this $400,000, but we want to sell it to you for $1 million." So they raised the asking price $100,000.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I saw on the books, it was from 2 years ago. It was a appraisal, and it was 50 pages. It's like public record. So it was only 2 years old. Nobody has been in that building for 4 years. So it wasn't like they got a major upgrade. It wasn't like vandals came in and ripped out all the copper. The building was still in the same condition it was 2 years ago as today. And it appraised for 1.6. I was like, that's crazy. 1.6 appraisal. They're only asking 9. I'm like, going to $1 million is not crazy. I'm like, I've never even bought a building before. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I didn't have a mentor. I tell people all the time, like, I didn't go to college. I barely passed high school with actually the lowest math you can go was like algebra 1.
It's like 5 years ago I was making pizzas.
Yeah, I was making pizzas. You know, there's kids in my school graduating with like trigonometry 3, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but
It sounds really hard.
I'm not gonna try.
I'm just
It's-
gonna shoot
it's so-
pellets at people.
So useful in today's world too. Like Trig 3.
Yeah. So anyway, he says, hey, we'll put up 400,000, and we just want to change the selling price from 900 to $1 million. And I was like, okay, so that means, okay, now I'm borrowing, 1.4. Still, it's a huge number. Like I tell people, I have an insanely high tolerance for risk, averse.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this could not worked out. I don't know. And now I'm like, I'm on the hook for $1 million. I got to pay back. So anyway, they take the deal and they said, okay, fine. We're going to do this deal at, I think it was like 6% interest, which is still right now the going rate's like 9%, which is like crazy high for a regular bank loan. So I kind of took them down a little bit. They originally, I think, wanted like 7.5, and I was like, hey, what if we do 6? And then they agreed to that. So 200,000 went to the bank. That was a 20% down because obviously it's $1 million building. You need 20% just to even for the bank to even say, hey, we're interested in this.
Right.
And then the other 200,000 they gave to us is a wire transfer. And I think we talked about this a little bit the other day, but I was like, oh yeah, 200 grand. I'm like, that's an ungodly amount of money. I've never seen 200 grand in my account. You know, not even close to, not even probably maybe not even a tenth of that.
So this gets wired. This gets wired
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, next day
I should just quit while I'm ahead.
yeah. I'm like 200 grand. But in my mind, we're doing all the math. We're adding everything up and we're like, oh yeah, this is going to be plenty. Like we're not going to have any issue because Medina, I mean, we opened it with 15,000.
Right.
We had nothing. We had no money. If you look at the old photos, you can see we actually had 0 guns for sale. We put rentals on the wall for our ribbon cutting ceremony. Like the mayor was there because we have nothing for sale. So we're like, let's put some rentals up here. It looks nice. Like they weren't even for sale. But this one we wanted to open with a full shop. We wanted buildings that were painted. We wanted 2 stories. We built this insane castle that just destroys anything else we've ever built. It's like 65 feet by 60 feet and it's 2 floors and it's massive. But anyway, we blew through that in 30 days. And I was like, oh, that went really fast. And it wasn't like I went out and bought a Corvette. I was like, no, it went to lumber. It's like, it's just gone.
You are in West Virginia. Maybe you should get started with coal.
Yeah, the Home Depot driver knows my name, like first name basis. They were
sure.
delivering bunks of lumber every 3 days. And he's like, is this the last one? I'm like, oh yeah. I see him 3 days later. I'm like, we were running so low on money. We actually contemplated for probably a week. And I'm not gonna lie, the tensions got difficult between me and my brother because we're getting stupid low on money. Our first mortgage payment's coming up. We're not open. The building's not finished. We have no idea how difficult the city's going to be. Because every single city has been drastically different. One's been like, oh yeah, this is it, and this okay, you're good. And one's like, yeah, you need to do everything 20 times over and go label the breakers. So I'm like, there's 700 breakers. What do you mean? Like that one. How am I going to find out? That's like outlet 7 in a building. That's 40,000 square feet. So anyway, the tensions were getting high, and we were debating on actually just opening with half of it. We were like, we're so low on funds. We were like, we should just build a wall, like straight through the middle, and we'll say, hey, that's out of play. We're just gonna leave the construction site. And then time goes by, and we basically looked at our credit cards, and we have business credit cards. And I was like, you know what? If we don't build all of this, I was like, we're not gonna finish it. It's going to be a construction site for the next 3 years. It's going to be a thorn in our side, and we're going to have a halfway finished airsoft field. And I was like, the biggest thing that we have going for us is that we can say we're the second largest in the country. I was like, nobody else can say that. Not one other field can say they're the second largest. But I was like, if we open 50,000 square feet, I'm like, then we're not going to have that. And then I'm going to feel like I'm kind of like lying to people, like, oh, because 20,000 is not finished. So anyway, we took out an insane amount. I think we're up to like $90,000 in credit card debt. But I'm very confident we're going to pay it back. And like I said, once again, going back to that, it's like it's weird being comfortable with that much risk.
Sure.
Because anybody else would be like, how do you sleep at night? You just went $2 million in debt, in a 2-month period.
Yeah.
But we did. So we took out all the, I don't want to say we took out credit cards. We had them. So we just didn't want to use them because it's like, credit card payments interest is like 28%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then you never catch up.
Do you guys ever think about taking out like a small business loan or anything like that? Or at that point, is it just easier to just?
Yeah, because it's like we already owe this bank, this amount of money. We already have this going on. And we did take out a personal loan, which I'm like 98% paid off. So that's basically like gone. Awesome. But I was like, that's one thing too. I was like, if we ever open another one, I'm like, no more loans. Like, and I don't mean building loans. So building loans is fine because you have an asset. But personal loans and they're called working capital loans. I don't want to say avoid them, but it's just so hard to catch up because once you have this loan on the books, it's like, okay, well now how can I get in the door to the next thing? Because I have this payment hanging over me for the next 5 years.
Right.
But yeah, so we finished the entire building. We painted everything. We had an unbelievable store. 71 rifles we had, which is more guns than we had. We were like, we're going to go over the top. But so
71 for sale. At the store?
71 for sale.
Compared to 0 the first time.
Compared to 0.
Moving on up.
Yes. Yeah. And we had our inspection, and it was 2 hours. I was blown away. I was like, dude, I like West Virginia. Like super cool guys. I mean, granted, we still had to do everything the right way. but I think they saw how far above and beyond we went, because the laws are definitely more relaxed in West Virginia, 100%, as far as like what you need to have to build something to code. And we built everything to Ohio code because that's what we know. We're like, yeah, this has to be here. You need this many exit signs. You need emergency lights here. We had to fix the sprinklers. And they were super nice. They were like, oh yeah, this looks good. This looks good. They tested the sprinkler system, and they were like, oh yeah, here's your paperwork. I'm like, what? That's it? And I was like, they didn't mark us off for anything. Never happened before.
Wow.
Willard, I think at least 27 things. Like they're walking around like, yeah, this outlet cover's missing, and you got this board here. We don't like that board, and your handrail needs to be 6 inches higher over here on these staircases. Yeah, they walked around 0. We had 0 infractions.
Wow.
Never happened before.
Good old West Virginia.
Good old, and then we're like, yeah, we're in a lot of debt. We need to open like tomorrow. So we gave people a 2 days notice, and we still had 80 people the first day, and then we had like 55 the second day.
Now, 80 people, they stayed pretty much the whole day?
Yeah.
Or is it like just you had 80 people throughout the entire day?
Yeah, on average, I would say airsofters play 4 hours.
Okay.
And that's not an exact number, but
Right.
it's 4 hours. They tend to get tired. So some people come at 10 and then they leave at 2. Some people come at 1 and they leave at 5. So most people don't stay the whole day though. That's pretty rare.
Okay. I mean, that's an awesome story, dude. The fact that now you have this colossal. So you said you're the second largest in the country?
Yeah, second largest.
So there's a larger one than you?
Yeah, only one place beats me. It's called Game Pod. It's in California. They're 120,000 square feet.
Holy smokes. Well, hey, now you got a goal to put on the board for the future,
I
right?
think you can one up them. I mean, they're in Antioch too. That's like pretty expensive real estate.
I can't even imagine what they pay, because I'm like, California is like the highest real estate in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're in Ohio, West Virginia. Like, things are relatively reasonable. Like if you look at real estate in Ohio, West Virginia, compared to almost any other state, it's drastically cheaper here.
There for Antioch, you're going to get a deal on 120,000 square, but like it's got to be somewhere around $4 or $5 a square for that, like unimproved. So let alone the build out cost. I mean,
which now I know what it is. $293,000
per 72,000 square feet. Right.
So people are like, "You want to open an airsoft field? All right, $300,000." And like I said, 72 is way overly big. Like, I mean. But because of that name and because of that size, we're getting people from 3 to 4 hours away already. Like this guy came in, this was hilarious. A lot of people don't know I'm the owner. Like I'll go in and I'll be playing, and they just start talking to me, and they don't know who I am. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so pumped. There's a field close to me now." And I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. Like, where do you live?" He's like, 3 hours away. I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean close?" He's like, "Yeah, there's nothing out here."
Dude, that's awesome. But I mean, that area that you guys are in, and we talked about a little bit. I've been down there quite a few times. My wife's mom lived down there before she passed, and that Clarksburg, what is it? Bridgeport's the partner.
Yep.
It's like a mutual town little connection there.
Yeah,
it's actually a sweet spot. In fact, one of the best gyms I've ever been to is there. It's a place called
really?
WV Fitness. It's like up on a hill. It is the most sick gym ever. I'm talking like they've got one of those huge hot tubs where you like swim against the current. Because it's so big. They've got huge.
I've never seen that anywhere.
Yeah, and then they've got this thing where like their gym is like attached to outside, so like you can like go in and out, and it's like on the top of a mountain, so you can see down over top. But that whole place is just like a really like come up area where everything's essentially new businesses everywhere, and it's all built into the side of the mountain. It's funny because when I was down there a couple of years ago, they were actually blowing outside of the mountain to put a building or a plaza in and stuff like that. And it's like, it's cool to see them still do that stuff. Cause
like actually like dynamite.
Yeah. Actually like blowing up a fucking mountain so that you could build something there. It's like, that's intense, man. But that area, I'm sure it's gonna be well. Plus you're close to the colleges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like, I don't remember what name of it is, but it's like 45 minutes away, but it's the biggest college in West Virginia. It's in Morgantown. So whatever that big college
that's actually
is.
West Virginia. That's University of West Virginia.
Or the
It's
University of West Virginia.
Because that's the first Walmart I went into where everything is blue and gold, or blue and yellow, whatever their state colors are. Sorry, West Virginia. But
it was funny. So we had our first Sunday, and all these people started coming in. They're all wearing I don't really watch football a lot. I'm not going to lie and say I do. I don't watch a lot of football. But at least in Ohio, I know like the colors. I know what these people wear. I know what Ohio State wears. I know what the Browns wear. And all these people are coming in wearing this like gold and blue, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, it's Sunday. There's football. So they take football very seriously down there. And it was like I think 60% of the people that walked in to play airsoft had some kind of
West
apparel,
Virginia football
West Virginia
apparel,
apparel on. So
Yeah,
that was
what
cool.
else do they have? Coal.
Yeah, it's literally nothing.
That's why they take it seriously.
That's right.
But it's awesome that a business. I can't imagine a business, and it's people down there are just great too. And they support their local businesses as best they can. So it's awesome to hear. But it's funny at the same point in time because here, if I need to go to Columbus, it's an hour and a half. It's 100 miles, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you want to go 100 miles in West Virginia from Clarksburg in any direction, it's like a 4-hour drive because half of it's through the mountains at 25 miles an hour, and it's like. Whew, man, it is exhausting driving around down there.
A little
But
slower pace way of life.
yeah, but so you've been welcomed. Obviously, you said you've been on the news a couple of times. You've done a couple of articles. And then how many weeks have you been open? Just 2 weekends?
2 weekends, yeah. So we're going. This is our third weekend we're going into.
So are you because you guys sell a lot of stuff online ahead of time, right? Like people are buying passes and stuff.
I don't want to say most. Probably 50% of the tickets are online. And that's just because if we sell out, then you don't have a guaranteed spot. So that's kind of why we offer that. As far as you can go online to get the ticket, and then you can show up that day and you're good.
Yeah. So what is it that draws people to Airsoft? I was just looking up now because Call of Duty has over 100 million people playing on a monthly basis.
That's a lot.
Right? 100 million people per month are playing Call of Duty online. And when you play Airsoft, I mean, it's as close to real life Call of Duty that a 6-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old kid's going to get. I mean, maybe as an adult, you're in a war zone and it's, you can see the real life Call of Duty, but,
I mean, I think they set off one of those grenades for you guys, didn't they?
dude, that was intense, man.
Yeah,
I did not know what to expect. And it's funny because he throws it on the floor and I was like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I have glasses on. I guess I'll be okay. And it didn't like shoot BBs everywhere that I expected to. I heard him bounce around a little bit on the floor, but I was like, man, you throw that into a bus, dude, and you're going to be sitting there like, as people are coming in and clearing a bus. And I was like, that's real. Like
military and law enforcement guy were about on the deck for that. Like we both looked at each other for a second, like, cover? Like,
well, because he pulls the pin and it's like, and he's like holding it as he's talking. I'm like, what is going to happen, dude? And I'm waiting for him to like chuck it like across the floor or something. He literally just bloop, drops it 3 feet in front of us. And I'm like, but you throw that inside one of those buses when people are in there and like, man, that's intense. Like, but yeah, the idea that for all these kids that are out there playing Call of Duty, I suggest you go spend a day playing Airsoft because one, you spend enough time in front of screens and iPads and everything else.
Yeah.
Two, it's just a lot of fun. And the community, we've talked about community in a lot of things, whether it's, warehouse fitness and warehouse gym and the fitness community, but Airsoft has got its own community. You see a lot of the same people in there for the most part, or is it kind of diverse? How's that work?
No, we definitely have a big following. And so just going off our waiver system, and this is the only really real way we can track how many customers we have, but we're at 7,600 waivers. So, and that's over a 2-year timeline. So that's actually not even the whole 5 years we've been open. We used to do paper waivers, and then we were like, this is a terrible idea. We're like, if somebody gets hurt, we're like, I mean, there's mountains. I still have them. I saved them. But I'm talking like file box after file box of paper signed waivers. Because I was like, if somebody gets hurt, we're never going to be able to find that.
Right.
I saw the QR code, so now they come in, and it's all electronic off of that.
Yeah, and we switched over probably, it's a year and a half. But even just in that 1 year and a half, it's like we've already got 7,000 people to sign, the digital waiver. So that's like kind of gives us an idea.
Of how many now, is that across all your platforms or is that just
across all the fields? Yeah, all 4 fields. So
let me ask you this, because obviously people come and pay as they play for that day or whatever. Have you ever thought about doing something subscription based? So like somebody could have a subscription and it's like, they can come as many times as they want during Monday through Wednesday or something like that.
We offer a weekly pass now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's $55, and it's actually what's kind of fascinating is it's specifically we haven't done a really great job of advertising, but we also only put out 15 for each field. So it's not like we're putting out 100 weekly passes.
Right.
So it's good for all the fields though. So we did that because we have like this gold patch, and you can only get it if you visit. Obviously we have 4 now, but as of 2 weeks ago we had 3. So we called it the gold patch, and you would get you can't buy it, but you can only get it if you visit all 3 of our fields in 1 week. which is obviously like a triathlon. It's not easy. One's in Cincinnati, one's in Willard. Yeah, one over here in Medina. But we've given out probably 26 of them. So
Wow.
people are making the trip. They just, and it's also like, it's a challenge. People are like, yeah, I can do that,
Well, and it's fun too. And like you said, it's a challenge. And at the same point in time, they're getting to meet new people that are doing the same thing all over.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about a little bit your goals, or you have had some trainings take place inside of the one here in Medina, right?
Yeah.
With like local police, maybe even SWAT. Is that what you said? Or
Yeah, so we've had probably, I would say, at least 8 different SWAT teams. Definitely some local PD. We've had Secret Service, U.S. Marshals, state troopers, and probably a few other groups I can't think of right now off the top of my head. But they come in and they just use the facility, and that's really what I'm hoping for Clarksburg. So I don't think we talked about this yet. One of the most, I'm probably allowed to talk about it. He didn't actually go through and buy it, so I don't think it's a big deal. But one of the fascinating things about the building in Clarksburg was last January, the VA police, a federal organization, put in an offer on the exact same building that I wanted to buy. Obviously, they were there first. I came in about June, and I was talking to the realtor about it. And I said, hey, what happened? Why didn't they buy the building? And he said that because it's federally owned, they had to wait till after the election to actually purchase the building. But anyway, long story short, they were going to buy it and turn it into a training center for the entire East Coast, not just for West Virginia, but for the entire East Coast of all the VA police. So I was like, man, if I can get a hold of this guy, I can ask him like, hey, what do you want? Like, I will build it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So I was able to get a hold of him. They kind of fought me at first. They were like, yeah, we can't let you talk to this guy. He's like, high up government. And I'm like, look, I just want to ask him if he wants me to build stuff a certain way.
Yeah.
Because we want their business as far as getting in there and training. So they finally gave it to me. He was a super cool guy. And a couple of things he said was, they wanted buses. I was like, all right, cool. I like buses. We can get those. they wanted 2-story buildings, and they wanted a mock roadway. So it was funny because I always thought about doing a mock roadway, but I'm like, we've never had the space to do it. And I was always worried how it would play because, like, if you look at the pictures of Clarksburg, the actual road is 18 feet wide. So I was like, that's a huge gap. It's like, how do you run across that? We have 2-story buildings. You're getting shot from above. Now you're getting shot from the doorways. I'm like, how does this play? But it actually plays really well. So I was concerned about it first. And then we had opening weekend, and I was watching the people, and I was like, oh, actually, people have no trouble getting across an 18-foot opening, like while getting shot at. So.
Well, it's funny because when I was in Las Vegas, one of their airsoft / like zombie whatever is similar like that, and you actually charge up it against the barriers, and then there's like 50 people coming at you, so you're just like literally trying to move up and shoot against all these zombies or whatever. But you guys have barricades and stuff like that set up on that roadway.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think I saw that in the photo.
It's funny. If you look at the pictures, I tell my brother, I said, that's the hardest thing we did out of the entire building.
Really?
So they're actually scale 1-to-1 replicas of real concrete barriers. And we painted them gray, and we put yellow stripes on them. So they looked exactly like concrete, but they're made out of wood.
Oh,
But,
really?
Yeah, the angles you have to cut, like you have to add, 1 1/4 to this 17th, and you have to slice this off this way, and it was crazy. I was like, I'm never doing that again. But my brother, it's kind of funny. He is the exact opposite of me. I am just like go go go. Like I'm a hammer. I don't care. Like it's airsoft. Let's get it done. And he is like, no, it has to be perfect. But we work together well.
Well, yeah, because you're kind of pushing him to move quicker, and
Yeah.
he's saying, "Hey, at the same time, if you want this to really look cool,"
Yeah, he's
and
like,
then you guys
"You
get
want it to
that
look good?"
Yeah, and then you get that combined effort. And like I said, the castle that we saw, super awesome. And it's funny because now you have all these guys, possibly doing training with you in the future, and now you can start making sniper nests and everything else up in these buildings so that they can practice, presidential guard protection and all kinds of other stuff. Maybe that's a new game mode, right?
If I want to make it really difficult for them to train, I could put in like a sloped roof.
Got him.
Like,
I'm
hey,
just kidding.
Just so that you guys don't mess this up again, you can come down and train at West Virginia at MK Airsoft, and you can practice.
We'll help
protecting
you
the
out.
president. Well, so let's talk about the next part. Is obviously you have these businesses, you got them going in multiple spots. I can't remember the gentleman's name that walked us through, but he's been with you since the beginning. Who is
Kai. Yeah,
Kai?
He's actually my longest standing employee.
Yeah, he said he's been there since day one, I think, or first year.
Before
At least.
day one, like literally before
really?
we were open, I hired refs, and he was there for like training day, and he's never left. So, actually, it's kind of a bittersweet. It's like a bittersweet moment. He's getting a promotion. I'm actually losing my manager. He's leaving on great terms. He's giving me a month notice. He's got a better job, and I wish him well. But Kai is actually moving into the position of manager. So
congratulations to him.
But yeah, it's kind of a good story for him too. Because like, man, you started out as a volunteer, and you've been with me for 4 years, and now you're going to run the entire place.
That's awesome.
And it's like good for you. Like, they don't say, sometimes they're like, oh, you can't stick around a job, they won't promote you. But it's like, well, if you're good enough, they will.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, things don't happen overnight. I think that's the biggest misconception. People think like, oh, I'm a hard worker for 6 months, they should promote me. Well, it doesn't always present itself that way.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, he's probably going to be a really great manager. He's been there for 4 years. He's seen everything that could possibly happen on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And he's obviously passionate about it if he's willing to volunteer to be a ref for, and then now.
I tell people he's the only person I know. He knows more about airsoft than I do. Like
Really?
not just the tech side, because I always tell people, I'm like, I don't work on guns. There's a million small parts, and it's gears and springs. And you take one thing out and the whole thing explodes. And that's why I don't work on
It's like
guns.
Will's microphone.
Yeah. Poof. Yeah, then you're trying to put it back together. Yeah.
But not even just the teching side, he's extraordinarily knowledgeable about just every single gun that's on the market. And I think it's just years of him browsing and learning. But he's definitely a huge, brings a lot of value. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't duplicate passion.
No, you can't.
You want somebody to learn a lot about something. They have to be passionate about it. And, I'm sure there's probably been other guys that have come in there that play and want to work there, or especially young kids. But that's awesome for him. The fact he's going to have this, position as managing the building and managing the organization at that level. And it probably takes a load off of you knowing that, dude, this dude's been here from day one. He cares. Like, I don't have to worry about this place. Like, he's going to run it the right way.
And I was talking to my manager, Patrick, who's still with us, and he's helping me through this transition, make sure everything's smooth. And I said, so do we have a head ref? Like, what's going on with that? And he's like, it's done. It's handled. I'm like, all right, beautiful. Because as an owner, I'm like, that's what I want to hear. I don't need to know all the details. Like, you're in there, you're doing it, you got it. You're going to train him. Beautiful. Like, just send me his information. We're going to put him on payroll, like when he's ready. So going back to passion though, and I always tell people, it's not like that. I mean, I guess I could say I work harder than some, but I don't work harder than everybody 100%. But it's like, I'm so passionate about this. All I've done since day one is reinvest almost 99% of the money back into the business. Because if you look at Medina, you can look at the old photos, like everything has been completely redone in the whole building. The amount of inventory that we've stocked. I always tell people, because I'm not afraid to tell people, like the saloon, I'm like, that was $11,000.
Wow.
And that was one addition. And we've built 10 additions over the years. So it's like, I always put money back into the business. And like I said, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I think a lot of people think like, oh, he's out here getting rich. And I'm like, I put so much time and energy, and most of the money just goes right back into the business, because I want to see the business do well. And I want to see it from, because I play airsoft, I know what makes a great field. So I'll go in there and play, and I'm like, you know what, this corner sucks. Like, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
So, and talking about the news lady, she was doing an interview, and
Did you get her to play?
No, she did.
Take out the pencil skirt, put on some BDUs, and get in there.
You'll actually see the interview. Yeah, it's funny. She was wearing a skirt, and then she wanted to wear a vest, and then she wanted to shoot the gun. So she did that, and I threw a grenade, and they loved it. But I was walking around the building, and I had to grab something out of my room, and then she kind of followed me, and she looked in the door, and she's like, "Oh, God bless your soul. Like, you sleep here." And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I've lived here for 2 months. My fiance has hated me for it, but I'm like, that's real dedication. Like, tell me you're gonna sleep at the field, and you're gonna put in 15-hour days for 2 months, and then be like, okay, yeah, he's lucky. No, not luck. Like, I've been here. I've been doing it for 4 years, and everything goes back in the business, and all I want to do is grow the community. It's not like I get to play, but it's like I get to manage. So I get to, make sure that things are going the way they are, especially now with 4 fields. It's like, I got a problem here, I got to fix that. The next day I got a problem here, I got to fix that.
Right.
So, but I love the community. I do. I love airsoft, and I think I've definitely provided, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was like doing the math. And when all 4 fields were running, I was like looking at the numbers, and we had like 450 people between all 4 fields in one day, all playing. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like that 450 people are going to come out and like go to my fields. I'm like, that's just, it's like, all right, maybe we have a real brand here.
I mean, I think you do. And I think that you're expanding in a good area and a good time too. I think things are going to start to take off even more. And I think that, I mean, honestly, that place in West Virginia, and David and I were talking, like, we got to get down there and at least check it out. But I want to go down there and play. Like, the place looks awesome. And for those of you who haven't played Airsoft in a field before, you've played paintball somewhere and it's great. It's in this big wooded area and they got some, I don't know, pallets stacked up that you can stand behind and shoot. Maybe some generic bridges or something.
Nothing against pallets.
Yeah. No. Nothing against pallets. But these places that you've built, and I can only say that I've played in Medina. I mean, it is an incredible building. Whether it's the back cave that's like got all the little different rooms and dividing into the hallways in, and it's or it's the saloon or the cemetery or the different things or the setup that you have where you can essentially like ambush into the kill zone when they're in that bus or that van. It's like, and you let these guys jump on the vehicles, kind of slide across stuff, like climb in and out of them. And then those buses they're like legit thought out plans to where, you get to really enjoy yourself. And like, I keep bringing it back to Call of Duty because so many kids sit in front of their TV playing video games for hours and hours, where 4 hours of Airsoft, I promise you're getting more than enough exercise you need in a week. Not to mention you probably lost 10 pounds just from sweating in there with all the gear on and stuff like that. But talk about the side of it for as far as gear, because that's obviously a big part of it. Do you guys sell a lot of gear? I know we kind of talked about your stores and things like that, but do people come in there and just start upgrading stuff as they're sitting there? I feel like that whole setup you have there with the staging area kind of sets the tone for like, you need to upgrade because the guy over there is upgrading.
I was literally like, that's the top of my notes here, because like when you walk in, it's a little intimidating. Like, I mean, and I've been in plenty of firearm trainings, and you like walk in and you're all wearing the same shit when you wear a uniform.
Right.
Like, somebody might have picked something up from Galls and you're like, okay, that's cool. But like when you walk into this place, like there's dudes in there that have got thousands just invested in what they were wearing. So like, it's probably, it's kind of intimidating for some people to walk in, but that's a good question. Like, that's got to be super competitive, because you see somebody's got it and you're like,
yeah, there's a huge variety of things. I mean, you can go from a $200 rifle up to a $1,000 rifle, and we sell everything in between. We sell vests, gloves, masks, BBs, tracer units, flashlights, grenades, pretty much anything you would possibly need to play. We're going to carry it. Obviously, there's a little small specialty items we might not have, but yeah, and that's where it's cool too, because like, you have a kid that just wears hoodie and a sweatpants, and he's totally he's cool. That's all he wants to wear.
Right.
And then you have a guy that has nods on, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's that different, But everybody has a good time. And like you were saying, there's definitely a variety of people's gear, which I think is nice. If everybody dressed the same, I think it'd make for kind of boring Airsoft game.
mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think it's cool. It's no different than like the skins people buy in Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody goes in there kind of dressed different. I'm sure you got some goofy guys in there and that do some funny stuff. And
oh yeah, like this one guy at Clarksburg, he wears license plates on his shoulders. And it's a post-apocalyptic, and it looks cool though.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, and I always tell people, like, you can't take it too seriously. Like, we're a bunch of nerds shooting each other with toy guns. So I'm like, as soon as you start taking it serious, like, all right, you might need to do something else.
Yeah.
Has an actual fight ever broken out in any of these fields?
Yeah. Well, not specifically my fields. There's definitely, you can YouTube fights all day. I think I've had 2 instances where somebody actually, and it sounds such a minute thing, but somebody actually pushed somebody, and we take that super serious. So I think we've given out like two permanent bans, but it was like close to a fight, and it's like, hey, you're an adult, you just pushed a kid. Like, that's not what we do here. Bro. It's not a contact sport. This is Airsoft. You get shot, you go back. And it definitely hurts, because people are like, oh, it doesn't hurt that much. Like, how do you know when you get shot? I'm like, no, you're going to feel it. You will, I promise.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a level of gear that you can wear where you won't feel it.
Well, but there's other ways you'll feel it. Like you think
can hear it. Yeah.
And you think you're behind that corner, and then all of a sudden you catch one right on the tip of your finger.
That
might
tough.
be worse than catching it anywhere else.
Fingers are rough.
Yeah. But I mean, it's such a cool, like, just overall experience for people, and I've seen that how you guys have grown, and it's funny because we talked about going one week, and I was like, shit, they're sold out. It's like a Monday, you're already sold out on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And at Medina, you guys said it's is it 30 on 30 at Medina?
Yeah, so we max out at 65.
Okay.
Which that's just our sellout number based on like the restrooms, the square footage, and whatnot.
And then now you have
It's we're doing 105. That's what Clarksburg is.
have you had 105 in there at
No,
one time?
not yet.
Not yet.
So we'll see though. Every
What's the
weekend
most
we're
you guys have
growing.
had in that one?
It was 80.
80 at the same time. How did that feel? Did it feel like you had more room for more?
So it's funny. It was like 38 on 40,
Uh-huh.
and it wasn't enough. Like, because I have it broken up into 3 fields. So if you look at the map, we actually have 3 different sections. And most of the games we run 2 fields. And we were like, oh, we have 80 people. Let's run all 3. And I was like, man, 80 is still not enough. So 100% we can have 100 people there. It won't be an issue.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome. So, any events that you have planned, or have you done events before? Like, obviously, you have some college campuses around there. Have you thought about doing, like, reaching out and asking them to do events just for content or anything like that, just to get some notifications out to you guys?
No, I haven't. Actually, it sounds like a good idea. I haven't specifically reached out to college campuses. Which is funny now, the new era we're going into, everybody's becoming more gun friendly, which is fantastic for me.
Well, and you're in West Virginia, it's really gun friendly.
I'm in the gun business,
Yeah.
even though they're toy guns, I tell people all the time. But yeah, so we do. It's like I've tried different events, I've tried different things like Nerf and other things. Every time I try something else, it doesn't make money. So I always tell people, I'm like, I just stick to Airsoft because that's what I know, and which makes sense too, because like, you listen to these entrepreneur people, and they're always like, the people that go out there and try to do 8 different things, they almost always fail. Yeah. Stick to one thing.
Find your niche.
Find your niche, and it is true because, like I said, we've tried to do other things, and they've never panned out. But the 2 things that we've done that we always sell out and that actually make a profit is lock-ins, and we do mini milsims.
So you guys have done some lock-ins.
Oh yeah,
ask
we've
about
done
that
like
too.
10 of them probably by now.
How do those are the younger kids for the most part, or is that still
No, it's everybody. Yeah,
what
we
time
do 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. So we actually have one coming up in 2 weeks in Middletown.
What is that? What is a lock-in?
So I mean, it's essentially it's an open play, but it's at night, and we feed everybody. So in the summertime, we do burgers, where we, depending on the location, some like Willard for some reason doesn't like us cooking out there, which I get it. It's a shopping center, but other locations.
That's exactly what the shopping center. They should supply the hot dogs and tell everybody to go there and buy them. Man,
What is wrong with Willard?
Dude, funny story. That was the weirdest text I've ever gotten. So I did an event at Willard, and the landlord messages me, and I talk to him like once every 6 months. Like he gets his check, he's happy, he doesn't talk to me, which is fine. That's how I like it. But he messaged me the one day, and he's like, I don't know where you get off thinking you can have food trucks. And I'm like, what? But there's like a Chinese restaurant, and I think they complained because we were doing an event and they weren't getting any business. And I guess technically he was like parked in a fire lane. I didn't really pay attention. Like,
right.
It was a food truck. I was like, yeah, come on in. Like, we booked him and everything. And I felt stupid because I had to ask him to leave. But they were like super serious. They were like, you need to tell him to go. And I was like, well, they're already here. So I was like, I'm going to let them stay for at least a couple hours. Like they drove out here and they got to make some money. But anyway, so they said I'm not allowed to have food trucks, which is crazy. I'm like, I don't understand that.
Where's that in the fucking agreement?
Yeah, it's definitely not. I looked. It's not in the lease agreement, but I'm like, it's such a minute thing. I'm like, I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, pick your battles. One of those things.
Exactly. Pick your battle. I'm not going to argue over that. So anyway, that one, for example, we switched to pizza. It's like, all right, we just buy pizza for everybody.
Yeah, screw the Chinese place.
Yeah. But still,
not buying Chinese food.
Because it's 100%. It was one of them, because there's only like one food place in the whole plaza.
Yeah, see, if they were smart, they would have walked over and be like, "Hey, I know you got a food truck this time, but
we'll do
we'll do $3 meals for you or something if you let us supply all your meals."
Not a good way to do business.
Yeah, just people just don't think, dude. They just get jealous and they don't think of ideas. So down with them. But yeah, so you guys got some lock-ins. Now, do you guys do like the old school lock-ins like they did where at rec centers where you actually lock the door so that parents could drop their kids off and not have to worry about them and stuff like that? Or
no, because that's people always want to come and go, and we're like, yeah, that's fine. The other big thing we do is a raffle. So we feed everybody, and usually we do about $1,000 in raffle prizes. So we're just giving away guns and different stuff. And that's it. And then we just play all the favorite game modes, like the game modes everybody likes. But yeah, we do them and people love them. I don't even like staying for them anymore. I'm like, thank God I have managers, because I'm like, dude, I can't stay up past midnight. Like my body won't allow it. I'm such a morning person. So
Yeah, so you're a morning person. What do you do to start the day off? How's your morning start out?
well, it was funny because it's like the things you're willing to sacrifice to do work. I actually took 9 weeks off of the gym, which I haven't done in 10 years.
Wow.
I've never taken more than a few days, even like with vacations and traveling. Like I'll find a way to work out. But I was so dedicated and honestly financially like nervous about this whole situation. I didn't work out for 9 weeks. Like I didn't go to the gym, didn't touch a weight. Thankfully I'm back now, and like Clarksburg is open, and I'm still going there every weekend, just because obviously there's a lot of training that needs done.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, it's your baby right now, and
Yeah.
you've really got. I mean, Medina takes care of itself at this point. I'm
Yes.
assuming you really don't have to do much. You don't want Medina or to Clarksburg to. You being there is only going to make it that much better.
Yeah.
Because you're the brand.
They're the ones that are doing the best right now. So I'm like, and it's not like I said, it's not like I'm not going to focus on my other fields. Like I'll be at Middletown in 2 weeks. We're doing a lock in there. So and we're getting more aggressive with the events, as far as we're doing one a month now. So we used to do like one every 3 months, or kind of like sporadically. And my brother was like, why aren't we doing one a month? And I was like, yeah, you're right. There's no reason. I'm like, let's do it. So we're doing an event a month, and we're rotating locations. So like Middletown is this month. Next month is Clarksburg. We're going to do a mini milsim. And then after that, I think it's Medina. And then after that, it goes to Willard, and then it starts all over again.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
pretty smart.
And then we try to jump back and forth. So it's lock-in, milsim. So it's not like you're not doing the same thing like back to back to back.
So, I mean, obviously, a lot of people nowadays find out everything online and really social media, right? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok specifically, YouTube.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a lot of content creators? Like, do you have a lot of guys that come in there with like the GoPro on their helmet or on the side of their gun and creating content and stuff like that?
I don't think we have any major YouTubers. Even me, I'm not a major YouTuber. I have 1,500 followers, so it's like nothing super impressive.
We got
I've been doing it
until this show, when people are going to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yeah, like, follow, subscribe. But I've been making videos for like 8 years. But I think that's a testament to quality. And it's not that I'm terrible at it, but I'm like, half it, I just make the video because I like to see myself play.
Yeah.
And if other people enjoy it, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, we definitely have people a regular basis. Probably 20% of our people probably record, which actually really helps. It honestly does. So we're to the age of Airsoft now, where like if somebody is cheating, they'll literally they'll break out their laptop. I promise you, it's kind of funny.
Replay.
Yeah, and then they'll put the SD card and they grab the the head ref. Hey, let me show you this guy. And then we're like, oh yeah, he got hit 7 times. Like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to him. So it does help. It helps keep people more honest, because like they have Zoom cameras now, they have GoPros, and the Zoom camera it's accurate up to like 100 feet. So like you can see every little tiny BB like hitting that person.
Really?
Now, most people don't run Zoom cameras indoors.
No, but still.
Super rare. But it's great for outdoor. So if you're playing like a milsim or somewhere long range, the Zoom camera, it actually makes it. I mean, I'm sure everybody's watched YouTube Airsoft.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. So where this guy's shooting somebody and it's 100 feet away, and then all of a sudden you can like see the BBs and you're like, whoa, what's going on? So that's what they're just switching back and forth to the Zoom camera.
So do you guys have your own cameras set up randomly all over to catch footage and stuff like that you can?
We do have cameras. We have quite a few of them, but they're not high definition enough that they'd be interesting to watch. It's funny because it's the most number one thing that people are always talking about to give me an idea. They're like, oh, why don't you have it on the TV and this and that? And I'm like, dude, there's way more logistics to that than people think. I mean, even setting up this podcast, like, it's not easy. There's how much thousands of dollars in gear and different camera angles and microphones. And then and we're not even live streaming, and then that's what people want. They want a live stream video that they can watch. I'm like, it's not that simple. Like, the amount of wires I would have to run, the amount of high quality cameras I'd have to buy, it's just, I love the idea. It's just not as simple as people think,
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, the only thing I could think of, and actually, if you were doing something similar to that, I would suggest you stop into Warehouse Gym. And that opened up here in Medina. Since you were in West Virginia the last 2 months, you might not have known that.
Yeah, no, I have not been here.
But they've got like a 96-inch screen behind the desk, and they've got cameras all over the gym. So like when you walk in, you look to the right, you can literally see like 16 different camera angles of all these different areas of the gym. So maybe you could do something like that where, you can talk to Craig about kind of the expense as
What's
as
the
far as-
reason for that?
It's
Like,
for
are
security.
people walking out with weights?
No, yeah. I think it's for safety, just in case weights fall on somebody or something of that nature. You know, and it's also security for inside the gym.
I love those flexing videos where people walk in the grocery store and they're like looking at the camera.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. I don't know why those things crack me up though. I love those.
But that might be something that you could do that wouldn't be, you know, overly expensive. But I was just thinking more the sense of like setting up a couple of cameras that just catch, you know, video throughout the day that you'd be able to create shorts and stuff like that from. Because I could imagine like there's some funny stuff that happens during an airsoft match like that. It's just like, God, I wish I had that camera.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, we have a couple ring cameras, but we don't do a ton on the field just because the reception's hard to get. And then we have like boosters for the Ethernet, you know, internet. I don't know why I say Ethernet, but boosters for the internet. But even that only gets you so far. So because a warehouse is totally different. You know, people are like, "Oh, you just put some cameras up." Like, well, there's a concrete wall there, and there's another concrete wall there, and the other side of the building is 320 feet that way. So it's like it's a lot of wires, and you know, getting a lift and like because you have to hardwire. There's just no chance you're going to get a good signal. Like I said, we do it with our ring cameras, and we get a good signal probably up to like 100 feet. But all of our buildings are like 200 by 300. So essentially, we're only getting signal so far. And we've actually used signal boosters too. I think they're called like Euros.
Yeah.
And we use those, and it's like
still iffy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now, do you guys rent like cameras or GoPro setups and stuff out to players? Like they can pay an extra $20 or $30 if they want that experience, or
no, I don't do that. I think about it all the time though, like just buying a couple extras and then like put it on a player for the content, you know.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but people want that footage for themselves, you know, because it's funny when you go like on a vacation or something like that and you do an event or you go like kayaking or whatever in Hawaii, like they'll be like, "Oh, do you want to rent a GoPro for an extra $50 to put on your head while you're doing it?" It's like, well, no, but I do now. I wasn't thinking about that earlier, but maybe I'm going to say there's a reason people rent these, right? You know?
Yeah.
But just as an extra source of, you know, income for the places you guys continue to grow. Cause I have to imagine that there's gotta be like a craving of like social media videos
Footage,
for this kind of stuff. Like, cause it's just one of those things that people do. It's that age group of people that are online and everything already that would be out there, like just creating some amazing content that would only bring more to your business. But obviously you're expanding without it right now. So
yeah, I will say like, social media has been extraordinarily laxed for me. And that's because of this crazy building. You know, like I said, we were putting in 15-hour days and I was like, oh, I really should post today. And then I was also there in West Virginia. So I was like, I was so limited on being able to go and travel and get content. But now it's like up and running. Everything is finally like in the transition of like, okay, now we're just put the cruise control on and now I can finally get back to content, which is like, you know, the main goal is like, I still have to be there for like the next 5 weeks. I got to make sure everybody's trained up. But then after that, it's just traveling. You know, I'm going to go to one location, the next one, and just keep getting, you know, photos, videos, and different content. Because that's essentially it's me. You know, like I tell people all the time, I'm like, I do everything. You know, I post. We have 9 different accounts, and that's not my personal accounts. That's just the business. I have 4 Facebooks, 4 Instagrams, 1 TikTok. So that's 9 different accounts, and then YouTube makes 10. And then that's not including my personal. I have Master Key, which is like my own little brand on Facebook.
Right.
You know, so now we're at 11 accounts. So I manage all those on top of like the finances, on top of like sending the weekly payroll, on top of trying to post daily. Like it's a million things, you know?
Yeah, it's intense. It's funny because we've had that conversation here. Like, you know, you want to start, but once again, if you're passionate about something and you want to do well in it, like it doesn't seem like work.
No.
Like my wife's like, you've been on your computer till 10 o'clock at night editing videos. Like, I know, I was like, I enjoy it. Time goes super fast. I didn't even know what was happening. Who are you? Where am I? You know?
I'm very specific about my editing. I'll like try to finish a video and like do whatever it takes to get it done at night, just so I can hit the render button. And then I'm like, I'll forget about it because, you know, I finally got like an upgrade computer, but rendering used to be like 7 hours.
Yeah.
So I had a slow computer. And so every video was like a 6 to 7 hour render time. So I would like 100% make sure it was completely done in like 10:30. And I'm like, okay, hit render. And then I go to sleep. And then I wake up in the morning. I'm like, okay, it's done.
Yeah. That's something I learned, you know, talking about rendering and exporting video and stuff like that. Like I was like, oh, I got a MacBook Air 15-inch Pro M3 chip. Like it just came out last year or whatever. I was like, this thing's gonna be awesome. This will be perfect for when I start the podcast. Like 2 podcasts in, I'm like, it's been 4 hours and my footage still isn't ready to like upload yet. Then it would take another 2 hours to upload to YouTube or whatever. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I gotta upgrade again. It's like shit. Every time that you think you got it, like there's something else that comes out. But you know, I do this without a return. Like to me, it's just a hobby at this point. But my wife's like, I'm like, see, this is a prime example. I've upgraded 3 cameras. I would like to upgrade 4 more. If I would have just spent the extra money initially, I wouldn't have been out these, because then the hard part is I'm gonna be like, well, why do I want to sell the 3 cameras that are sitting up over here? Maybe I could use those for something else. Maybe I'll have 15 cameras by the time it's all said and done. But it's like, you know,
one on the ceiling, like looking down, a little bit of everything.
POV.
Yeah.
it's just, you know, but when, like you said, it's so easy to get wrapped up into it, and whether it's social, whether it's being there, because you still ref occasionally too, right?
Yeah, I do. Well, and that's pretty much all I'm doing now is I'm going up and reffing and basically helping them. But yeah, I love to go back to that, because I'm like, man, that was the starting of how everything went. You know, I was the very first one I managed for like 8 months on my own. And by that, I mean, like I was actually in the store, running the store every day. And then I was like, you know, that'd be really nice if I could hire somebody. And then, you know, obviously I did. And then we went from there. So.
Well, so now did anybody follow you to West Virginia, by the way? Did anybody was like, hey, while you're opening this place down there, I'll go down there?
Not staffing wise. No, yeah.
So all new people down there.
Yeah.
New to Airsoft, because you said you're the only one in the state, right?
Yeah. And it was funny because I was like, you know what, this might be really difficult, because we have a certain way of playing and we have a certain rule set, and it's like every state plays different, you know? So it's like, I was expecting a lot of pushback, but the player base is actually great. Like we haven't had almost 0 problems, you know, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But it's been really good actually, like player base wise. So I was kind of nervous because I was like, you know, in indoor too, some people just don't like it. They're like, oh, I only like to play outdoor, you know, which is fine. But so yeah, we've been getting amazing turnouts so far.
So you've got these 4 obviously taking a break for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I said there's so much debt on the company now, and weirdly I'm okay. Like I'm not like I can't sleep at night. You know, I'm just like it's a company. You put on debt, and that's what, you know, it's there for. You know, ask Trump about debt. He's got the most debt of anybody, you know.
Yeah. Huge debt.
Huge debt. Billions and billions. But yeah, I'm, you know, and I told my fiance, I tell her this every once in a while before we actually got the building. I was like, in 5 years, I won't own anything. You know that? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, because in 5 years, all my leases are up, and I have a logo, and I have a following a little bit, and I have some inventory. But I was like, other than that, on the company, I'm like, I don't own anything. So this building was kind of like my foot in the door, because I was like, I need a real asset, you know, something that I can own, that I can leverage against the next thing, you know, because banks really like to see that. Like this one was difficult. And I think without this seller finance, like there's no chance I would have got this building. It just,
right.
I don't have $400,000 in the bank. I don't even have $4,000 in the bank. Like,
right. Yeah. Like
it just wouldn't have happened. So the fact that was an opportunity, and I saw it, I said it wasn't a great time to buy a building. It actually wasn't. We're not doing overly well financially, but I was like, it seemed too good of a deal to pass up, and it was, and I knew it, and I was like, man, this building seems perfect, you know. But now it's like, you know, maybe Medina in 5 years he wants to sell the building, or you know, we're going to move out. And the next time we move, Medina's huge. And all that lumber is going to be a huge pain in the ass. It's going to be terrible. I don't even like thinking about it. But if we ever move Medina, I'm like, I want to move to a permanent home. So the next location Medina moves to, it's going to be in Medina. I love Medina. But we're going to buy the building. And now it's like, okay, cool. We have this asset. We can go to the bank and be like, hey, we have $1 million building. That's not paid off. But they're going to see that and be like, okay, cool. Like we'll use that as leverage in case you default, you know, which is, like I said, it's the first step, I think, in the levels of being in business, you know.
So as you talk about like the fields you've played outdoor before, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, all the time. I go to probably 6-7 big events a year, and they're
oh
mostly
really
outdoor. Yeah, I travel all over the country.
So do you ever see yourself creating like a hybrid scenario where it's like an in-outdoor type environment? And if you did so, would you do it up here, or would you do it somewhere warmer?
You know, it's funny. People, I think that's probably in the top 3, like most asked questions. They're like, why do you not open outdoor fields? And I'm like, man, Ohio is awful for weather. Like if you actually look and Google it, we get 90 days of sunshine. 90
That's
out of
insane.
365 days, we only see the sun. Like, and I'm talking, yeah, there's a cloudy day, you might see a little sun. But like if you Google it, we get 90 days of sunshine a year. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just not ideal to have an outdoor field. There's so many, and the guns are electric. So like if it's pouring rain, you're not gonna go
Yeah.
out there and play. Like your gun's gonna get ruined. So, and then it's like, okay, if it rains and then you have this giant event, now you got to give all these refunds. I'm like, it sounds terrible. So I think about it all the time and I go back and forth, but I'm like, just being able to be open 365 days a year is like, oh, it's so much easier to be able to make a profit when it's like, okay, it's snowing for 3 months now. It's like, yeah, we can't make any money.
Yeah.
It sounds like a terrible idea to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I asked, because I would be thinking the same thing. Like airsoft is one of those things where, yeah, you can play it year round, hot, cold, doesn't matter.
And some people do, but it's still, it's not a majority. There's not the masses saying, yeah, let's go play in the snow. There's definitely people, there's hardcore people that will go play in, 8-degree weather.
Yeah, but you're not getting 100 players. They're going to sit there for
No.
4 hours. to
You're
do
not
that.
getting 100 players. Exactly. That's the difference,
So let's talk. What do you want to see yourself do in the future? Are you going to stick with? Is it airsoft going to be the thing that you lean on? Is there other ventures
Oh,
that you've
yeah.
considered taking, or is this
No.
going to be the one you got to just become the biggest brand in airsoft?
I think so. So an interesting fact, and there'll probably be people trying to fact check me on this. I actually am the only person in the country that owns 4 fields.
Really?
In the entire country. Yeah. So like
I
there's
feel like there should be somebody should know that. Like people should know that.
So, well, there's an interesting, and I actually just talked to somebody, and he even wasn't even going to tell me, but he did tell me, and I don't know if he was supposed to or not, but it's public knowledge anyway. I'm sure if you dig deep enough. So the biggest company in America is called Evike for airsoft retail, and
Online store for the most part, right?
yeah, it's an online store. They're based out of California, and there's 5 different fields that have their name. It says Evike Outpost Texas, Evike Outpost Las Vegas. So they have like 4 or 5 locations. And I was talking to the guy, and I was like, yeah, I think I own 4 fields. Or not think. I was like, I own 4 fields. I was like, I don't think anybody else owns more than me except for Evike, because I was like, they're a monster. They've been around forever, and they're I get all my inventory from them. And he was like, actually, they don't own any fields. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, so they do this weird agreement where I don't want to say it's weird. It's probably good for just getting their brand out there. So they do an agreement where they front the inventory and essentially pay for rent for like 6 months. And then they make them sign an agreement where they only can get inventory from them in the future. And they have to keep their name on the building. And then they back out. They're nothing. Like they're not 1% owner. They're literally just
Right. It's almost like a franchise setup.
yeah, almost like a franchise. But there's no
monthly.
There's no kickbacks. There's no royalties. It's just they basically help them set up. They get the field going, and then they just kind of disappear into the darkness. But I was like, oh, I'm like that's I'm the only guy then. I'm
Yeah.
100% the only person in America that has 4 fields. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is
So,
awesome.
And it's not even like I was trying to get to 4 fields. Like I said, I kept seeing these deals, and I'm like, man, that's a great deal. So no, I definitely want to take a break. Like I said, we have a lot of debt to catch up on, and that's going to be the main goal. It's just catch up on all this debt and start paying it down, and just getting more stably financially. Because I will say, like the last year definitely hurt us. Like we were 15 to 18% down over the year before. And obviously, the economy has, I think, something to do with it. Now, there's
Sure.
companies out there that weren't struggling, but I mean, if you look at the books, like everybody I talk to in any kind of entertainment industry has been down 10 to 15% this past year, 2024.
Well, you also were in kind of rural areas too. Like Medina's got a good, you've got a decent population around it, but Willard, not so much. And then the other one, what was the other one down in
Middletown.
Middletown. Okay.
Yeah.
You got some cities around it, but Middletown.
But
is
even
not
Medina was
specifically.
down like 15 to 18%.
Yeah, I don't
So-
expect. I'm just saying, like, what I mean by that is like the economy's gonna hurt those areas more because
yeah.
there's just not enough people to make up for it in that sense, you
Right.
know. So I can imagine that you're gonna see some fall off, but I think things are starting to turn around. People are starting to get out more.
People are starting to spend money again, which is huge. Like it's small, like, but I can already feel it's coming back. Like people are gonna, because we're not essential business.
Yeah.
We're the very last thing probably on the list. You're like, all right, I got to make my car payment, my house payment, I got to buy groceries and gas, and like, it'd be nice if I could buy a new airsoft gun.
Yeah.
So it's down there on the list.
Yeah.
But I think it's coming back, and I think think we're going to be all right. So
Now, speaking of buying, you mentioned something. This brought me back. Do you guys buy used guns?
no, we
No.
don't. So it's a common question. It's too much liability, because then we buy it and then somebody's like, oh, it's broken. And it's like, well, it's a used gun. So, and we just don't have techs. It's too hard to be responsible for somebody working on somebody else's gun, and it's I don't want to say it's a gray area. It's just, there's so much liability in it for me. Cause I'm like, if I have a tech and then he breaks somebody's gun, I'm like, okay, cool. Now I got to buy it. Like,
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's a weird niche. It's like, to work on a car, there's a school you can go to. To work on an airsoft gun, there's no school that exists. So there's no credentials I can check. This guy's like, oh, I'm a fantastic tech. And he's like, here, look at this one gun I built. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it shoots good. I'm like, okay.
School of YouTube.
How can I like rate his work? Like he has, a couple rifles he's worked on. I'm not hating on techs because there's definitely a place for them, but it's just in my line of work, I've seen the worst side of it, So
the other thing you mentioned, your fiance a couple of times. You guys are engaged.
yeah, first kid on the way too. So
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, congrats.
Dude.
on top of all of the stress, she's 5 months pregnant. So
Ooh,
and I'm gone. I'm not even there. So and we have 3 dogs. So
Oh my gosh, the 3 dogs alone. I have 3 of my own. Obviously, that will take the stress right up to the nth degree. But boy, girl, do you know yet?
a girl. Yeah, we did a gender
Girl.
reveal,
Cool.
which is crazy because I was like, oh, for sure it's gonna be a boy. Like I have 5 brothers. I'm like, it's gonna be a boy. And then she's like, no, it's gonna be a girl. Like I have 3 sisters, and I'm like, no, there's no chance. And then it is a girl. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Which is going to be the most badass 5-year-old on the airsoft field, I'm sure.
And it's funny too, and that's how far ahead I think I'm looking. Because people are like, oh, you really want to have kids? I'm like, yeah, I want to have kids. I'm like, I'm building generational wealth. I'm building a legacy, and I'm like, I want to hand this off to somebody. I don't want the company to die with me.
Right.
Like, and that's like, and once again with the asset, I'm like, I got to pay it off for the next 30 years. In 30 years, I'm going to be 78. So it's like, it's going to be passed off to somebody, and I want somebody as passionate about this as me, and hopefully it's one of my kids.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. When's the big day? Do you guys are you going to wait till after the baby's born, I'm assuming?
For what's
Wedding.
that?
For,
Yeah. No, we're pushing back the wedding. It was like I said.
Yeah.
And to talk about that, I mean, we still have to get married at some point. So this whole deal came out of nowhere, and then it just sucked me in like a vortex, and I've just been gone for like months.
Well, it sounds like a perfect indoor wedding venue.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely could. It'll be a little bit hot in the summer, but for sure.
They'll survive.
Yeah.
It'll be hot everywhere in the summer. Well, anything else you want to share with anybody that's listening?
No, I
didn't talk about it again. You said you got Willard, Middletown here in Medina, obviously, and then the new one down in Clarksburg.
Yeah.
Website for all of them? They all have their own individual websites?
It's all the same website, mkairsoft.com.
All right, we'll make sure we share that in the link or in the description below as well. And then social media is all their own places, right? MK Airsoft Medina, MK Airsoft Willard, etc. for all of them.
That's exactly right.
And if you guys have not been to the one in Medina, there's hopefully one near you in Willard or Middletown. But then hopefully if anybody from West Virginia catches on to this.
We're in multiple states now too. So it's like if you want to play at an MK, you probably can find one near you.
Yeah, right. Now you just got to find out where the next spot is. Turn it into your own franchise opportunity. Have them going up all over the place. Find somebody that's passionate about you, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on and talking about it. It's a hell of an adventure, and it sounds like you're really passionate about growing it. So I hope it continues to go well for you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Good night, everybody.
Life and love, fitness and